Hi everyone, for tonight's Nightcap and review, I'm having a soda, and tonight I'll be discussing Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. This was my nonfiction audiobook that I downloaded through the Libby app, and of course I'm giving my honest opinion. I gave this 4.5 stars, so what's this about? Now, for accuracy, I'm going to read the synopsis straight from the Zahn. Data is fundamental to the modern world. From economic development to healthcare to education and public policy, we rely on numbers to allocate resources and make crucial decisions. But because so much data fails to take into account gender because it treats men as the default and women as atypical, bias and discrimination are baked into our systems. And women pay tremendous costs for this insidious bias in time, in money, and often with their lives. Celebrated feminist advocate Caroline Criado Perez investigates this shocking root cause of gender inequality and invisible women, examining the home, the workplace, the public square, the doctor's office, and more. Criado Perez unearths a dangerous pattern in data and its consequences on women's lives. Product designers use a one-size-fits-all approach to everything from pianos to cell phones to voice recognition software, when in fact this approach is designed to fit men. Cities prioritize men's needs when designing public transportation, roads, and even snow removal, neglecting to consider women's safety or unique responsibilities and travel patterns. And in medical research, women have largely been excluded from studies and textbooks, leaving them chronically misunderstood, mistreated, and misdiagnosed. Built on hundreds of studies in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and around the world, and written with energy, wit, and sparkling intelligence, this is a groundbreaking, highly readable expose that will change the way you look at the world. So what are my thoughts? Again, I'm giving this a 4.5. Now, if anyone's interested in trying this book but is worried it's all dry facts and is going to be hard to digest, I promise you this book was very easy to consume. It was all delivered in a way that was very understanding, especially with the backing up of the data with stories and anecdotes to drive that point home. So I would recommend that. Now, I will say for me personally, I was not super surprised by how widespread the male default is into almost every aspect of our lives. But with this book, I did appreciate the more nuanced discussions, especially the stories to drive home that point of the data points that we do have, though we again are very lacking in a lot of data points when it concerns women. I also did appreciate that she provided examples how small changes could not only vastly improve everyone's lives, but women's lives and safety especially. An example she used was the bus system in India that has a high rate of assaulting women. And some examples that she said is simply lighting the path for everybody, but especially for women, to the bus stops. And at the bus stops have a countdown of how far out the bus is so that women can safely travel in the dark, as well as better plan their day so they are not just sitting in the dark waiting for a bus for whenever it comes. As well as some of the buses have cameras, but that's only usable after the crime, and that's if someone reports it. But instead, if we had an actual, in the areas that were needed, bodyguard there to stop the crimes from happening, women would be able to move around on the bus system, which would allow them a lot more freedom to just exist in the world that we have safely, allow them to get to their jobs, visit their family, go to the mall, all of these things that other people take for granted. Now, I do want to say one data point that is still rattling around in my head is that up until recently, women were not part of studies. We are too difficult with our hormones and our periods to be included in medical studies. So that means medications were tested primarily on men. And if they didn't work on men, they were just tossed. But there are so many medications that are made for men that don't work on women. So how many medications did we lose out on that could severely improve women's lives, like with thyroid conditions, like I have a thyroid condition, or heart attacks and strokes that we missed out on simply because it didn't work for a man? So that just is rattling in my head. Now, I do want to say this author talks about women as a whole, and while she does use studies or in stories of women around the world, so women of color are included as well. She did bring in the conversation towards the end concerning race when it becomes to people of color, women of color, as well as Black women when it comes to missing data points. But I really want to drive home that it's not just women as a whole that have this data bias against us. We need to make sure that when we're including women, we have the intersectionality, if I'm using this correctly, when it comes to race as well. Because especially in like areas of healthcare and education, we need to make sure that we are not leaving our women of color or Black women out of these data points as well. I hope I'm conveying this correctly. I just want to make sure that it's not just women. We got to make sure all women are included. This book is currently available. I would recommend it, and I hope everyone has a good night.